The slave auction block of Kepler Station reeked of desperation and disinfectant. Zarath clutched her youngster closer to her chitinous chest, feeling the tremors that ran through his small blue form. The Zenthari child hadn't spoken since witnessing his father's execution 3 cycles ago, and now they faced a fate that might separate them forever. Lot 47. The auctioneer's mechanical voice crackled through the translator implants. One adult Zenthari female, approximately 30 standard years, former military communications officer. One juvenile male, age equivalent to 8 human years. Bidding starts at 500 credits. The crowd of buyers, a mix of mining consortium, representatives, pleasure house operators, and private collectors, barely glanced in their direction. Zarath's heart sank as she watched their disinterested faces. Zenthari were considered poor investments in the slave trade. Their rigid honor code made them difficult to control, and their natural telepathic abilities were seen as security risks, rather than assets. 500? The auctioneer repeated, his tone already growing bored. Any bids for the pair? Silence stretched across the auction floor. A few buyers had already moved toward the exit, clearly uninterested in the remaining lots. Zarath felt her youngster's small hand grip her arm tighter. In their shared telepathic bond, she sensed his fear, not of the unknown future, but of being separated from her. 400 credits, the auctioneer tried again, desperation creeping into his voice. Surely someone has use for a trained communications officer? A Vortan slave trader in the back row snorted. What use is honor in the mines? They'd rather die than work. 300, the auctioneer continued. Final call before they go to the recycling centers. Zarath's blood turned to ice. The recycling centers were death camps with a prettier name. She pressed her forehead against her son's, sharing what comfort she could through their mental link. At least they would face the end together. 200 credits for the pair, the voice came from the back of the auction house, speaking in heavily accented galactic standard. Every head turned to see a human male standing near the entrance, his hand raised casually. He was unremarkable by most galactic standards, average height, brown hair, wearing the simple coveralls of a freight hauler. But his eyes held something that made Zarath's telepathic senses tingle. Genuine compassion. Ah, we have a bidder! The auctioneer perked up. 200 credits to the human gentleman. Going once. 250, called out a Kardeshi merchant, his tentacles writhing with annoyance. I need workers for my factories. The human stepped forward, his expression hardening. 500, a murmur ran through the crowd. 500 was the original asking price, more than most would pay. For problematic slaves, 600, the Kardeshi countered, his business instincts apparently overriding his previous disinterest. 1,000 credits, the human said firmly, his voice carrying across the auction floor with quiet authority. Final offer. The auction house fell silent. 1,000 credits was more than most single slaves sold for, let alone a pair that no one else wanted. The Kardeshi merchant's tentacles drooped in defeat, and he slithered away, muttering about foolish humans and their bleeding hearts. Sold, the auctioneer declared with obvious relief. Lot 47 to the human buyer for 1,000 credits. 20. Minutes later, Zarath found herself and her youngster in the cramped cargo hold of a battered freighter, still trying to process what had happened. Their new owner, a man who'd introduced himself simply as Captain Marcus, sat across from them on a supply crate, his expression thoughtful. I know you understand me, Marcus said quietly, looking directly at Zarath. Your file said you were a communications officer. That means you speak at least 6 languages fluently. Zarath remained silent, though her mind raced. Most slave owners preferred to maintain the fiction that their property couldn't understand them. Marcus smiled. Sadly, I'm not most owners. My name is Marcus Chen, and I run medical supplies to colony worlds that the big corporations won't service. I bought you because... He paused, running a hand through his hair. because no one else would and I couldn't. Watch a mother and child get sent to die. Why? The word escaped Zarath's lips before she could stop it, her voice hoarse from disuse. Because 20 years ago I was a refugee too, Marcus replied. The Terran Civil War displaced millions of humans. A Centaurian family took me in when I was about your son's age. They didn't have to. It wasn't profitable, but they did it because it was right. He stood up and moved to a control panel, his fingers dancing over the holographic interface. I've just transmitted your manumission papers to the Galactic Registry. As of 30 seconds ago, you're both free citizens with full legal rights. Zarath's chitinous plates shifted in shock, a Xanthari expression of profound surprise. Free? But the credits? Consider it an investment in universal karma, Marcus said with a slight smile. Though I do have a job offer if you're interested. I could use a communications officer, and colonial medical outposts always need teachers for their children. For the first time in months, Zarath felt her youngster's mental presence brighten with something that might have been hope. Through their bond, she sensed his thoughts. This human? He smells like kindness. The colonies you service, she asked carefully. They're dangerous routes? Some of them. Pirates, system failures, hostile environments. It's not easy work, Zarath straightened, her military bearing reasserting itself. Xanthari do not fear danger when serving a worthy cause. If you truly mean what you say about freedom, I do, Marcus said simply. Then we accept your offer, Captain Chen. Both of us. As Marcus's ship broke orbit from Kepler Station, carrying its newest crew members toward the frontier colonies, Zarath reflected on the strange turn of events. In a galaxy where profit margins determined the value of life, one human had chosen compassion over credits. Perhaps that was why, despite being one of the youngest species in galactic civilization, humans had already begun to reshape the moral landscape of known space. Her youngster had fallen asleep against her side, and for the first time since her mate's death, Zarath allowed herself to hope for the future. Sometimes, she realized, the greatest strength wasn't in superior technology or overwhelming firepower. It was in the simple choice to do what was right, even when no one else would. Especially then.